Hi, everybody. My name is Leslie Shoemaker, and thank you so much for coming today to our very first ever virtual event that is a cross-joint event between all of our TU Dublin campuses. And today is about talking about how we've kept the show on the road. And I think it's a really important topic, obviously, because of the pandemic. And the two women are here, Anne-Marie Kelly from Schneider and Grania Wafer from SAP. We're going to be talking about how they themselves, plus their roles within their companies and their companies, have helped keep Ireland going, how we've kept the doors open, we keep things happening here and life keep going on. What I want to do right now is I'm going to hand you over to Rebecca Jones. She's part of the team who's helped put this together. And Rebecca is going to explain about our survey. Right after Rebecca, Michelle Luby, who is from our Blanchardstown campus, is going to give some information for the TU Dublin students who've logged in.
Sorry, I was unmuted. I was talking away here. You're all very welcome. I'm thrilled that you all can come. It's fantastic. This is the first TU Dublin event for all campuses, for TU Dublin students and secondary school students. Woohoo! So brilliant. The survey at the end is so important, guys. It's only 6 questions, and all you have to do is answer them, and this will inform us on developing and reimagining the next 3 events that will be happening over the next few months. So thanks again, and don't forget to fill in that survey. You'll get an email from this after the event. I'm going to pass you over now to Michelle Luby, who is engineering in Blanchardstown.
Hi everyone, and I'd like to just welcome everyone here. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about STELR, so it's STLR, and it stands for Student Transformation Learning Record. So this is an initiative, for a learning initiative, which allows students to gain formal recognition for learning experiences gained both inside and outside the classroom. So for example, it could be customized CA, university events such as this one, or part-time work or volunteering. So through the initiative, students record their transformative learning in TU Dublin and display their improved soft skills, which would be of benefit to potential employers. Currently, students involved in the initiative are business students in TU Dublin on the Blanchardstown campus, but it is planned to extend this to a wider range of students across the university. And students have access to a STELR dashboard via Moodle, which allows them to sign up to events such as this. And during the event, they scan what's called a QR code, which logs their attendance. So they then receive recognition under STELR, which becomes part of the STELR's transcript they receive when they finish their course. And at the end of today's event, the QR code will appear so that the relevant students who are in the Blanchardstown campus can scan in the code, and this logs their attendance at being here today. And can I just say that if you have any queries, I can direct you to the STELR coordinator, Sandra Thompson, on the Blanchardstown campus, or email stlr@tudublin.ie. So thanks very much, everyone, and I'll just pass you back to Rebecca now. Or sorry, pass you back to Leslie, excuse me.
Hi, everybody. I'm really delighted that the president of the TU Dublin University here is going to speak to us. He's going to be doing our opening remarks. And after President Fitzpatrick speaks, I'll be speaking to both Anne-Marie Kelly from Schneider as well as Grania Wafer. I apologize that we've had a slight change in our panel today. Yvonne McCardle gives her regrets. Unfortunately, something's popped up and she's unable to do it. And due to technical issues, I feel kind of silly saying this, we've had some difficulties logging on our other 2 speakers. But I promise you, we have prepared for this contingency, just like everybody's doing these days. So as you can see, and Anne-Marie, I'm going to quote you, every day is a school day, not just for everybody in second level and in college, but for the grown-ups as well. So President Fitzpatrick, please take it away.
Thank you very much, Leslie, and hello everybody. It's a pleasure to be here just to say a few things at the start of what is actually the first of a series of 4 panel discussions that have been organised by Leslie and her colleagues here within TU Dublin. Critically, this brings together the aspects of our Esteem Program, our Building Esteem Program, and also the access to apprenticeships. So we are not only engaging across all 3 of our campuses, but we're also now bringing together if you like, attendees from secondary schools as well, and you're really most welcome to this TU Dublin event. The Esteem program started a number of years ago, and over the last 2 years, it's been my pleasure to attend various meetings and listen to various discussions within it. And really, its primary ambition is to ensure that we promote and support women who are in the STEM subject areas, the science and technology, engineering, mathematics areas. And with the significant contribution from industry partners, we're making great progress in that space. I think now, this year, we have now 10 key partners collaborating with us, and they'll be contributing throughout the 4 panel discussions that are coming up. Today, we're very fortunate to have Anne-Marie Kelly from Schneider Electric and also Grania Wafer from SAP. So I'd like to thank you both very much for joining us today and for your time and your contribution. As Leslie's already said, today's discussion and panel discussion is around keeping the show on the road. How are we dealing with the current environment and meeting the demands that places on us? Other topics that we're going to address during the course of our panel discussions are how to obtain and develop your practical experience and your skills, how to recognize why diversity, inclusion, and equality matter in the workplace, and how can you contribute to that area. And then finally, our last panel discussion will be along the lines of trying to second guess the future, which can be challenging at times, but you know, it's a good idea to have some view of where we all want to go and what we all want to achieve. So really, I think I just want to congratulate the staff who've contributed to getting this on the road, and to thank the contributors again today. Really look forward to hearing all the commentary and to seeing the results of today's initiative. Thank you very much.
Thank you, President Fitzpatrick. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Grania to introduce herself and say a few words about herself. And I just want to say, Grania has been part of Esteem for the last couple of years and has been amazing. Always one of the mentors that's always one of the most popular ones for students to try and become one of her mentees. So her contributions have been absolutely fantastic over these last couple of years. And other than the fact, she's rescued us a few times in Esteem when things have gone a bit pear-shaped. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Grania to introduce herself and say a few words. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Anne-Marie to say a few words about herself, because rather than me reading from a script, and these bios are very technical, I think it's better if we hear it straight from the individual's mouths in a much more easy to understand way. Grania, how about you first?
Hi, Leslie. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Good. Hi, everybody. I'm Grania Wafer. I'm based here in sunny Greystones, in just south of Dublin, County Wicklow, and I'm fortunate enough to live by the sea. I am working for SAP. I joined the company back in 2012, actually, which seems like a long time ago. And I joined a part of a company that was just acquired by SAP called SuccessFactors. So I joined in a very startup, busy environment, and I'm focused on learning and development, or performance consulting, specifically in the sales area. So not necessarily engineering, but for those of you who know SAP, it's a very engineering traditional background, based in our headquarters in Waldorf. I'm married to Paul, and we have 3 children who are now adults. Our youngest has just started in Trinity, having come through an exciting 6th year last year and the Leaving Cert and all of the drama that happened there. And our middle daughter, Lydia, she's actually going to start in SAP in 2 weeks' time. She's going to get a contract there. And she is a graduate of TUD. She did event management. And then the eldest guy is working for Salesforce. So all in the technology space, working remotely for Salesforce. And he's decided to up and move to Sligo because he has an opportunity to work remotely, and at least until next summer. So that's me. Yeah, delighted to be here.
Thanks, Grania. And Anne-Marie, If you can tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me today. I'm absolutely thrilled to be here. My name is Anne-Marie Kelly. I'm living in Galway, though I'm from originally from Laois. I am with Schneider Electric for the last 15 years. Originally, I joined APC, which became a part of Schneider in about 2008. So my background really is in finance, but well, prior to that, arts. I did an arts degree in NUIG and then a master's degree in Irish studies. So completely a million miles away from technology. And it is only really in the last few years that I have become very much a part of the technological side of our business. In quality and through customer satisfaction and quality, and also then project management through my role as a program manager with Schneider. I was the first woman in Schneider Ireland on the management team. There have been about 5 since me, so diversity is alive and well and very strong in Schneider. I am married with 2 children. Ariane is 13 and just started secondary school, loving every minute of it. And thankfully, COVID has not made life difficult for her, and she's making loads of friends and having the best of fun. And Emmett is 8, and he is in primary school in our local primary school in Esteem. So really looking forward to spending the next hour with you guys and just, you know, shooting the breeze.
Thanks so much. It's great to hear the backgrounds that you both are coming from, because I think it's really important to get that message across that for students who are not really sure about what they want to do, it's okay to make that kind of change. I look at my own mom, who she got a scholarship to college in America, and then she went and became a teacher. And after she had my sister and I, she decided she wanted to be a stay-at-home mom for a little while. And she went to law school when I was in primary school. And it was just amazing. Now, you know, I was little and I didn't quite understand it all, but now as an adult, I look at her and I just go, wow, that's really, really cool. And, you know, we can make these choices, we can make these changes. More importantly, we can keep learning. And I think that that's what's really cool about this, is that you learn one thing, but you can move into a whole new area. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask both Grania and Emery the same question. Emery, I'm going to start with you, just with the responding, and then we'll move to Grania. And really, I'm looking, the first question is, that I'm throwing out to both of you, is what's been the biggest challenge you faced so far in terms of altered working conditions during the COVID-19 pandemic?
Well, I suppose for me, Leslie, I have to admit that I rather enjoyed the lockdown. My inner introvert is enjoying this, you know, not sort of being on the road all the time. As I said, I live in Galway, so I was on the road a lot, going between our offices and site in Maynooth and Dublin, and then sites in Sweden, and then meetings and audits abroad as well. So I was gone 2 to 4 days a week, and sometimes had to travel over the weekend as well if I had Monday meetings abroad or if I was going further afield. So with my children, they were kind of getting used to the point where I wasn't here, and that wasn't necessarily terribly healthy for us and for our own well-being. So the lockdown for me has been an opportunity just to sort of stop and smell the roses, calm down, take a breath. You know, spend some time hearing stories from school and breaking up the fights and that kind of good stuff. And that's been great. Now, of course, it hasn't all been fun. I used to drop in my dad on my travels, you know, kind of across country and stuff. So I haven't been able to see him at all recently because, you know, he's 88 and COVID, you know, it could be fatal for him at this point. And as importantly, I would say I also miss getting my hair done. My attempts to book a hair appointment have actually precipitated level 5 lockdowns. I apologise. It has been my fault every single time. I haven't been to see the hairdresser in the best part of a year, which is slightly obvious. And my poor husband has had to look after my hair following my very poor attempt during the summer to colour my hair purple. I figured, given that we weren't, I wasn't in public anywhere, nobody was going to see me, that this wouldn't be a problem. But it sort of turned a metallic shade of purple on the top and the scary array of pinks right the way through. So I think, to be fair, that challenge is actually probably his, is to keep me away from exotic colours that go badly wrong. From a professional point of view, I expect that 2021 is going to be really busy for me with projects all over Europe. And I'm currently trying to prepare the countries and the factories for that rollout. And I like to sort of get together with people. I like to meet face to face with them, and I get a better sense then that they understand what I'm looking for and how, I expect that things are going to proceed, I suppose, throughout the projects, because they can be quite complex. But and I always find that it's easier to work with people that you've met. It's easier to tell them the bad news, I suppose, if it ever comes to that. Now, these guys, it's not their first rodeo. They've done this on a number of occasions, but I'm a teeny tiny bit of a control freak, I suppose it's fair to say. So I like to make sure that my customers are well looked after and that everything is going to go right with them. So I suppose that really has been is my major challenge right now. And not to mention the fact, I suppose, that it wouldn't be the most painful thing in the world for me to get to travel to Barcelona at this time of the year, if everything was right in the world, which unfortunately it's not. Aside from that, I suppose I have to get better at taking breaks. I tend to kind of forget what time of the day it is, and I come and I go, and I have lots of calls and so on, and I just don't take enough breaks during the day. So I certainly need to do a good bit of that. But for me, the main thing here is to stay positive, because this is a brief hiccup. Things are going to go back to some kind of a normality. We're not going to be in this situation forever. So, I mean, it's just an opportunity for me to take a break-ish right now.
I would have loved to have seen the hair. I have a friend who's in her 60s. Her hair is purple. She did the same. This is a great time for experimenting. But it's interesting to hear how work is really continuing from you, but you're able to enjoy being at home as well, and getting to experience the everyday life of the kids. I had to laugh. You made me think of my poor mother trying to study for law exams, breaking up fights between my sister and I when we were little. So, but it's great to hear how you've married the role of being a wife, a mom, and also a manager, and how the skills that you have as a mom, as a family member, that you've brought into your role in Schneider Electric. So that's really cool. And Grania, how about your interpretation of this?
Sure. Yeah, altered working conditions is a good one. I've always worked remotely for the last 15 years. In the company, it was available. It was available as an option. So I'm either traveling or I'm working from my home office. I think the difference this time is that my entire family are also working remotely. I normally have the house to myself and our black Labrador. So suddenly the house is busier with students and Zoom calls and all of that kind of excitement going on. So that's been different. And I do miss the travel. Like Anne-Marie, I'm global, so I would be going US or Asia or Europe. And I do miss that from time to time. I normally would find an excuse at this time of the year to get over to those lovely Christmas markets in Europe, tie in an extra afternoon or something to a trip. So that's definitely different. I have the benefit to my family, my extended family live locally. My mum's in Dundrum, so I'm able to go and see her, and I use my calendar to my advantage. I put in time for lunch and for exercise, and I'm quite rigid on that. And Fridays, we have a policy around thinking time, and that works well, you know, because sometimes you can just be back to back on meetings, and you forget to actually be a bit strategic and think about what am I stepping out of your role, and looking at it from the outside can be quite effective. So that tends to work. And then the exercise piece, I think, is really important, on minding yourself, and breathing and doing, you know, different techniques, because it can be constant. And I certainly found that during COVID, there were more meetings coming than ever before. Everybody seemed to want to have a Teams is what we use, yeah, or Zoom. And that can become too much. So so kind of minding yourself, I think, is important too. Working conditions, I have a physical door that is my home office, so that tends to be a good idea. And then I block out time when I'm, you know, having meals. I try not to eat in the office, to step away. So yeah, all kind of tips that I've learned over the years.
And it's interesting, something that's a theme that's popped up with you and with Anne-Marie, it's about taking breaks. It's about carving out that bit of time for yourselves. And I know that's something I've learned, I have to learn to do for my own self. The School of Computer Science and City Campus started a step challenge. So I have to make up for yesterday. My team, I let my team down. So this afternoon, I will be out walking in the botanical gardens, getting my steps up. So yeah, and I think this applies for, you know, not just us in the workplace, but I keep encouraging my own students in TU Dublin, make sure that they take breaks. And also for second level students, I think it's really important that we just get that little bit of a rest time. So Grania, while I have you here, we got a really great question, and I want to ask this to you. And I think it's a great fit for you because of your experience with Esteem as well, because you've been working with our young female computer science students in City Campus. And so the question is, what advice do you have for young female graduates starting out in a male-dominated workplace? Do you choose to stand out, or do you choose to just fit in?
It's a great question, and one that I think, yeah, we should think about. Somebody's sending me a note, or somebody's holding something up for me. No, I think when you go in as a graduate into your first role, you know, it's wise to look and listen, to step back and see the culture, and listen and look at people and see if there are you know, to understand the vibe in the office that you're focusing. If you're in a physical office, culture is really important to me. We focus a lot on skills and competencies, and to me there's a third piece that we need to look about, and that's culture. And as you apply for roles, ask about the culture. Ask before you join, what is the culture like on the team, and you can do tons of research on, you know, the actual organization. Do you stand out, or do you try and fit in? It very much depends on your personality. If you're somebody, what I would say first and foremost is be authentic, be yourself, because if you're trying to be something that you're not, it'll become apparent very quickly, both to those that are managing you and to your peers and the other team members. So being yourself is really important. Work hard. I don't think that's something that we need to say to most females. I think we all, you know, anybody is committed, is working hard. If you don't like the job, look for another one. You know, it's not rocket science. If there's something, a part of the job that really, and there's always parts of every role that aren't wonderful, but you know, there's lots of jobs out there, so don't feel that you need to be there. But in terms of standing out, I would say be yourself. If you are an outgoing extrovert, then be that person. And if you're somebody who's an introvert and are quieter, be that person too. So yeah, that would definitely be my advice.
And you mentioned looking at the company culture. Where could somebody do that kind of research in preparing for an interview? or even just looking at companies?
Glassdoor is great. Most people have a network of friends. Certainly anybody who's coming from college, you'll have friends and friends of friends. Ireland is a village in many ways, and people will know somebody who works there, or somebody's cousin who works there. You can ask the recruiter, or you can ask in an interview situation. Go out and look at their annual report, see what their strategy is around females and how they employ females. Male-dominated companies like ESB are phenomenal for what they're doing for females. So people might think ESB male-dominated. It's not the case. But do your research, and LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a phenomenal tool. You'll see, some of the employees there will be posting and blogging and whatever.
All really practical tips. Something I love about SAP is your women's network. And I think
Yes.
that's something that's really invaluable. I know our work placement students come back and give that feedback that they really like having that available. And
Yeah.
Anne-Marie, we got a great question for you. It's kind of a tough one, and I feel like I'm the interviewer and you're the interviewee, because this is such a common interview question. So folks out there looking for jobs, take notes, because it's a good one to know how to answer. So I'm going to ask you the tricky one. What used to be your biggest weaknesses, and how do you fix them? How did you fix them?
I love this question, Leslie, and simultaneously I'm absolutely scared of it. I love that it's assumed that we reach a state in our lives where we have our lives together and have no weaknesses anymore, and everything's great, and it's really easy. And simultaneously, it's probably the question that I dread the most in job interviews. I have loads of weaknesses. I mean, we all have. The human condition is a project in continuous improvement, is it not? I wish, though, that I knew in my 20s what I know now. I think it's very empowering to confront your fears or your weaknesses, whatever they may be, and to overcome them. Even if that defeat is only temporary or it's ongoing. For me, I will admit here, because we're amongst friends, that I have a self-confidence issue, and I'm naturally very shy, which I mask by being talkative, and I get that that's slightly contradictory, but I like people and I like talking. I just don't particularly like being the centre of attention. So I think it's fair to say that this particular session today is an exercise in self-improvement in action for me. So my shyness, I suppose, caused me to steer away from opportunities in my 20s, professional and personal opportunities, and I was very frustrated, because I knew I needed to get out of that mindset, and I needed to be able to get out of myself. So I kind of engaged, I suppose, in adult education. I began to teach VEC classes in bookkeeping and payroll, and to people who were looking to come back to work, to come back into the workforce after long periods of unemployment. And as I said, my background is in finance. So it gave me an opportunity to help people, which is something that I really do like to do. And at the time, the money was pretty good. It was the 90s, and I was trying to buy a house, so it was nothing to be sneezed at. But most importantly for me, it made me kind of stand in front of people who were looking at me, and to speak confidently and calmly and with authority. And it didn't come naturally, and I still find it very hard to do, I have to admit, but I'm very proud of myself when I succeed. It gives me an amazing sense of achievement. When I applied for my last role as customer satisfaction and quality manager in Schneider, at the time when I checked out that job description, I felt that I was probably 90% qualified for the role, which was why I applied for it. And I think this is what women kind of sometimes tend to do. But when I actually started the role, it turned out I was probably about 10% qualified for it. And I'm so glad I didn't know that at the time, because I never would have tried. I wouldn't have had the confidence to, and I would have missed out on so much. I have no technical ability at all. I can barely spell UPS, and UPSs, for those of you who don't know, are uninterruptible power supplies that we sell in Schneider. And I'd be dangerous with a multimeter. But my skills are building relationships and coordination and resolving problems and that sort of thing. So I worked really hard to understand what was needed in the role, and I used my skills to leverage the fantastic technical people all around me, because, you know, I mean, Schneider's full of technical people, so you don't actually have to be as technical as they are. They're fantastic. They're, you know, you communicate with them and they will help you, and I did that, and that worked, and I became competent, and it led me into the role that I'm in today, program manager, where I use those skills every single day. I work right now with skilled technical teams, mostly men, and the audience will understand from your field that's you're going into that position, and my job is to keep them calm and to keep them on track and to get them whatever it is they need to get the job done. I'm up front and centre with senior management in some of the largest companies in the world, discussing project execution and quality, which I was not qualified to do. And I report then into senior management within Schneider as well. And I could never have pictured myself doing that 5 years ago, not to mind when I was in my 20s. But I do it. And every time it gets just a tiny bit easier. And every time I hope I get a little bit better at it. But while I'm still working around those weaknesses, I've never, I still haven't overcome them. I'm still working on trying to promote myself within my own area, and promoting myself and the value of the work that I do. And I suppose I see my achievements as being the team achievements, and so I don't kind of individualize myself with it from that, I've always kind of left it to my work to speak for itself and to speak for me, but it doesn't always. Sometimes you have to take responsibility for telling people how good you are, or you're not going to be automatically thought of when good opportunities for advancement come along, even though you might be a perfect fit for them. If you don't put yourself out there, the more vocal people often who will go out and sell themselves, they will be the ones who are thought of firstly. And I think this is a cultural issue to some degree for us in Ireland. Who does your one think she is kind of attitude. But it's also compounded, by the fact that in general women are not supposed to boast. We're supposed to be modest. And so I'm still working on that weakness, and probably will be for a long time. But my advice to everybody is, don't let your weaknesses hold you back. We all have our battle to fight, and no matter how confident or together, other people might seem around you, they all have their weaknesses too. I mean, I think everybody here could probably say that.
I think you really hit on a lot of great points there, and the fact that, we don't ever hit a point in life where we have it all figured out. And it's kind of like, I don't know, I find sometimes once I iron out one kink, I've got 3 more that I've discovered that I have to go and tackle. In psychology, there's a great acronym. When we say the word fear, what we're really saying is face everything and remain. Because what we discover is the worst thing hasn't really happened.
Yes.
And even if it has, we figured it out and we coped. Emery, while you're here, I feel like this next question really fits with what you're talking about. And it's, what does success in this position look like to you? Because you're talking about how this is still an ever evolving process for you. So is success an end game for you, or are there little markers along the way? What does success look like for you?
I suppose for me, I tend to focus on what it is that I'm doing. So for me, I'm extremely passionate about customer satisfaction. So everything, within my role, that is the end game for me, is the customer satisfaction part of it. So my role, as program manager for the cloud and service provider accounts, it's partly to act as customer advocate. So I would be the customer representative within Schneider. And within that, I would manage sort of the full customer program operationally, from projects to growth initiatives, to ensure that our customers' voice is heard right the way through that. I create and I implement processes and procedures which improves how we deliver our solutions to my customers. I create initiatives to provide, like, I suppose, method of delivering our commercial strategy, and that contributes then to the growth of the business. And I suppose I roll out lessons learned and customer requirements to countries executing new customer projects, and the escalation point then for both Schneider and for the customer in the events that things don't run smoothly. And of course, in real life, they don't always run smoothly. There are hiccups. And so, I have a little panic, and then, I suppose, my role is to act as intermediary, facilitate communication, and so on. And to answer your question, for me, success, it is when we delight our customers. So I don't concentrate on each small success as I go along. I'm very hard on myself, I suppose, really, in that I want to see the final outcome of it, and I won't celebrate a success until it's completely successful, until we've completely delivered. When we delight our customer, when they can't see behind the veil and all the activity and the process occurring, the activity that occurs to make the process work behind the scenes, when the customer just gets what they ask for, when they ask for it, and with minimal effort at all, and then that they can come and trust us enough to be their go-to partner, that then at that point I would accept that there's some success there. But of course, that there are many challenges in trying to achieve that. And so, but I think for me, I concentrate on the creation and the implementation of a robust system, to make that work. And when it works, then I succeed. And, if it doesn't, then I have to identify what issues there are and what the gaps there are, and I implement improvements there. And then tomorrow I try all over again, and I try to perfect that and, kind of keep that going. So that, I suppose, sort of feeds into maybe my confidence issue that unless it's perfect, it isn't, it's not a success. So, my bad.
But what I find really interesting and kind of neat is the fact that for you, success is not an end goal. It's something that just keeps evolving, and you keep revisiting, and what it looks like keeps getting tweaked and changed. And I think that that's a really cool thing to emphasize, is that this is not something, success is not a straight line. It looks probably more like an EKG machine with the lines going up and down. It's something that's just keeps happening. And Grania, I'm kind of curious, because you're talking about, how you travel a lot, but you're working from home. And I'm wondering, like, an average work week for you, what would be the kind of things that you do? Because I know with my own students who I teach in computing and engineering, they think that they're going to be doing a lot of techie things all day long. But I know from speaking to people in the field, there's a lot of other things that happen in the job. Could you give us an idea what happens in your world?
Sure. Yes, so much happens through the computer, just like this, live events and conversations. I think in terms of if I was to structure my day, I probably spend in an 8-hour working day, and I don't always do 8 hours. Sometimes it's 10 or 12 on a bad day, and then some days it's much quieter and far less meetings. I probably spend about 40% of my time in conversation like this. 40 to 50% of my time there. I do spend a lot of my time in organisation, so stepping back and looking at the work that needs to happen. I do some coaching, So I'm coaching my direct reports, and then we have a very much a culture of coaching in SAP, where we are supporting predominantly other females, because that's the Business Women's Network is very much focused around supporting other women. I'm back doing a master's, so any spare time that I have, I'm doing that through the IMI and UCC, University College in Cork. So that's where I spend some time. And then I have quite a lot of reading as part of my job. So reading on new products and new areas that we need to focus on as a business. So I step away from my physical location to do reading. And again, as I say, I use my Outlook. I make it work for me. So that I have blocks of time to focus on something. I think one of the biggest challenges that we have today, and certainly for graduates, for those in college now and graduates coming through, is the multiple different things that are coming at us, either through WhatsApp messages or through Skype calls. Somebody's pinging me, and then I know I've got activities to do, and then I could spend all of my time in email. And never be finished. That's like housework. It's just one of those endless tasks that everywhere you turn there's more. So I block time for email, and then maybe I miss a thread, but it's like I can't spend all my time because that's not strategic. You know, being strategic is so important, and it's not that difficult to continuously look at what I'm supposed to be doing in my role and how I can expand it and make it, you know, bring value to the customers that I'm supporting. But stepping back to do that, because you can get caught on the treadmill of constantly doing. And sometimes when you step back out, it's you know, it's valuable. You can learn from it. I would recommend coaching and getting a coach as a female. As any new employee going into an organization, find yourself an internal coach and an external coach who can help you. Sometimes people working within the company, they're really valuable for specific things. They know the culture, they know the network, they know the politics, and that's really important. Not to be naive about politics, it's everywhere. But having somebody externally who is respected and more senior than you can give you some insights and help. So I try and do that too with you know, that's the coaching that I focus on, and I love that's a part of my job, but I also enjoy doing it.
I think having that kind of coaching thing, I was listening to, and I was thinking about people who have formally and informally mentored me over the years, and some have been men and some have been women, and the amazing contributions that they've made to my life and helped guide my life to where it is right now. And now it's my turn through the Esteem initiative to be giving back to my students and hoping that I'm having, you know, some impact, fingers crossed. But I loved what your answer was about your working day, and there was some really good advice even for students, no matter if you're second level or college, because I think it's that strategic thing. It's so easy to get swallowed up into that black hole of an assignment and get really absorbed by it, and figuring out what you have to do, planning your time, creating, I love that idea of thinking time. You know, it's something I think I'm going to be incorporating. And I think students, when they come to third level, I might be recording part of this and rolling it out to my first years every year now, because they think that they're going to be spending so much time just doing either engineering or computing, and they forget that there's all these other skills that they're going to need. And by the way, I need to explain, that's what I teach. I'm the soft skill person. And they all look at me and go, why am I here and why do I need your class? I'm not going to be doing this. So both of you have spoken about such a variety of things that you do in your days, but the one theme that I've noticed is how both of you are influencing your work environment, the people around you, whether it be your employees, colleagues, management, even customers. And I think engineering and I think computing both get kind of a bad rap in that way, that women think they're going to be working all by themselves, that they're never going to see the impact of their work. And that, you know, we as women, we do. We like having an impact. We kind of like helping people out. And in your roles, the impact that you're both talking about is really big. And this is where I think we as women bring fantastic value to our workplaces. And Grania, I want to ask you one last question. I'm going to go to Anne-Marie. And, you know, because with some of the things that you're talking about really lends nicely to this question that came in. Can you tell us about the most successful employee, or maybe a couple of employees, kind of a broad overview that you've ever had?
Yes, I have one person in mind. I have two people in mind, and they have both reported to me at different stages. They are relationship builders. That's a huge part of, you know, SAP has 120,000 employees globally. So having a good broad network across the organization is really important, so that you're connected not just with your team, but with other teams and other parts of the business. These people, you know, have very strong skills and behaviors. But I think what they've really been honest about is, I have a gap in this part, in leadership, for example, but it's somewhere that I want to go. And we have that development conversation to be very clear on, I'd like to try that, but I'm not sure, because I'm also interested in maybe doing this. So in SAP, we have this opportunity to do a fellowship, and it really means maybe giving an hour or two to a specific area to give you a chance to do that. Both of these employees have come through fellowships. They've moved from an engineering role to maybe a sales role, or maybe, you know, a marketing role. And they've made that transition slowly. They haven't made a big jump and kind of figured out that it was a mistake. The other thing that, you know, I really would encourage is pay it forward. So as their leader, they have both on separate occasions in one-on-one conversations said to me, how can I help you? So think about the person that you're supporting, and sometimes we only think about the work that we're doing, but think about the ones around you and say, is there something that I can do to help you? Even just saying that, even thinking that, you know, makes you kind of collaborative and makes you somebody that I might go and bounce something off. For my marketing, for my master's program, these are people who've said, if you ever want me to read something, or if you ever want me to help you with whatever, totally unwork related, and I've never asked them for that, but it's that attitude of, it really comes down to attitude, you know, where they've been happy to support and help. And you talked about, we've talked here about customers a lot, and in the future, customers are so important to every business. And having a customer mindset and having that, we talk about a growth mindset too, having that open, you know, open mindset to helping our customers is really what's going to see a lot of companies through this whole pandemic. And we've done some design thinking. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the design thinking concept, where you do some role play and you put yourself in the shoes of an SAP employee and imagine how it is for them going through our complexity and all of our different systems and our phone numbers and how to contact with us. And when you actually put yourself into the shoes of what it's like for the customers that we're supporting, it can be really powerful. And that's something that both of these individuals, again, would constantly, we're talking about projects and programs that we're running, and they'll stop and say, hang on, what's this like for the customer? Think about it from their perspective. So yeah, lots in there.
That's really interesting. Someday I'm going to get really quick at unmuting myself. Someday. Anne-Marie, in these last few minutes, before we close up, I was hoping to find out, you know, how, as, you know, young women who are studying tech subjects, or as second level students who are thinking about getting into tech for college, you know, what can we do to support more diversity when they do eventually move into a professional role within their company?
Well, I think that, first of all, certainly for the female students, be the diversity, you know, and you know, go out there and make us proud. you know, it's still, you know, there is still some unconscious bias out there, you know, as to women's ability, particularly in the male roles. So, you know, sometimes we just have to work that little bit harder than our male peers, and unfortunately that is still the case. But just turning up and being the woman in the room isn't enough. You actually have to work for it as well. So I think certainly for a start, do that. But you know, I'm relying on the young women today to make it easier for my daughter, you know, to be their, you know, to be her role model. So, you know, when she can see these women in the roles that they're in, that she can feel that you know, that's open to her as well, and that, you know, that women, you know, kind of aren't an exception in certain roles. So, you know, I rely on young women today, the same as young women have relied on my generation, same as I've relied on the generation before that as well. And I think, you know, take the opportunity now to shine. You know, it being different is not a bad thing. It's actually really good. It's a great opportunity for you now, being the diversity, because you'll get noticed, you know, and if you work hard and you have the skills and so on, just being noticed and, you know, over everybody else, that's half the battle to some degree. I suppose to some degree I'm, you know, relatively diverse in that, you know, I am the diversity in some cases within my role. I go out to site, you know, there are men everywhere around me, but I come from a family of 4 brothers. I've got my dad, my husband and son and everything, so I am not really intimidated by that so much. But sometimes I find that I've gone into meetings which have been very fraught, and sometimes just by being the woman in the room, it tends to bring a level of calmness there. And you don't even have to say anything. They just tend to sort of, you know, communicate a little bit better and a little bit easier. And actually, I've been brought to meetings to be the woman in the room on occasion, which has made me wonder a little bit when I'm there, you know, if I can't contribute anything else to it. But obviously, my male colleagues have noticed that this is the case, that just having a woman in the room can calm things down. When they eventually go into the workforce, and I'm going to do some shameless advertising here. We have the Schneider Electric graduate program, and I would absolutely urge you know, the women in the audience to join that, you know, to apply for it. Because you will learn many things, you know, about the industry, about Schneider, but also about, you know, our diversity program. And Schneider is very strong, you know, has a very strong diversity program. But I would say that when you're at the point where you can, you know, influence the hiring of people, or when you're hiring them yourself, find somebody who's very different to you. Find somebody who challenges you, who makes you think. You know, I don't mean somebody aggressive, but somebody who actually challenges you, who thinks differently to you. Diversity isn't just about gender or about race, even though, of course, you know, they all are part of it, and our life experience, you know, is predicated upon where we come from and so on. And I would say, you know, kind of just find people who have a very different experience to you. It gives you the group, your team, a more holistic view, really, and it improves how you approach work and how you solve problems and how you know, kind of execute whatever the project is. So for me, I would say that you know, I really enjoy people who challenge me like that. I love it. I love when people question my way of thinking, because I can sort of be focused on a particular way, and then somebody just says something and that's it. It just changes everything, and it makes me better at what I do. You know, so don't be afraid of that. Embrace the challenge, embrace the change. And quite frankly, as far as I'm concerned, we should never be comfortable. We should never be sort of sitting there going, yeah, everything is grand. Because, you know, there are always other ways to look at things. So for me, I would say, yeah, keep challenging, keep questioning, and be questioned, and don't be afraid to be. And I would say that, you know, always appreciate the shoulders on which we stand, because there are people who came before us who had to work so much harder to get to where we are. So, you know, be grateful and appreciate that. So.
I really like what you said. And what I love about Schneider, Kelly Becker is now the manager of Ireland.
And in fact, Leslie, she has now, and she would probably kill me for advertising this, but she is also now the president of the UK and Ireland. She has just been promoted. So we are super proud of her because she has just been fantastic for us, I have to say, and a brilliant mentor.
Yeah, no, I'm a total fangirl of Kelly's.
Yeah.
And I just, oh my God, that's amazing.
Yes.
No, she's not allowed to kill you. Tell her she has to kill me with you then. Oh, that's just phenomenal. But
Yeah.
I'm really, really grateful for the pair of you and giving your time, your thoughts, your insights, your honesty, because, you know, we don't have enough women talking out there at the moment and letting young women know tech is a good industry.
Yes.
And I think it's kind of funny because I'm a psychologist. So, I mean, I am totally diverse, but I'm sold. And that's why I'm happy to promote these things. Now, as we're starting to wind up, what I wanted to do also is I need to give a special shout out to WITS and also to Engineers Ireland, because those two organizations have been phenomenal. They were in the background this summer when I started getting the ideas for the panel discussions.
Nice.
My motto was think big or go home. Yeah, that's God. Yeah, that's me. What more can I say? And, you know, the fact that Schneider was one of the first two companies to join Esteem is huge. And SAP was our third company to join Esteem. And you guys have been amazing supporters of that. And also that, you know, there's been involvement with our Building Esteem program, with our Access program, and hopefully we can find a way to sneak you into our Access to Apprenticeship program for our women building the future lunches there. But I need to say thank you to the village, and I mean a true bona fide village that has made this event happen, to the lecturers in computing engineering and apprenticeship on all of our campuses who have been phenomenal, to the access officers who have been getting the word out, and to staff who promoted this within their kids' own schools. And thank you to those second level schools for being here. And this is being recorded and it's going to be sent out to even more second level schools. So this is the first initiative that is across all of TU Dublin, and it's phenomenal. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to wind up by saying the Stellar Initiative, I'm actually indirectly part of that. I do a lot of community projects, so I'm a firm believer in this, and I'm that soft skills lecturer. So with the team, Aidan and his gang, who are behind the scenes and are phenomenal and patient beyond belief, they're going to put up the code so that our TU Dublin students, you guys can scan that baby in. If you miss it, we will be downloading the attendance and we'll be getting that information to Sandra Thompson as well. December 10th is our next event. We're going to be talking about the importance and role of work placements, which both you, Schneider, and SAP are part of in TU Dublin. Also summer internships. I know SAP do the STAR initiative, which is really cool. And I know Schneider, you guys are going to be doing some work in that front because I've been in those discussions. And also apprenticeship, which is a really phenomenal option. And I think it's one of those resources that we really overlook and that we need to start talking more about. So Therese Fitzgerald, our Access to Apprenticeship Officer, is going to be the moderator and organizer of that event. I look forward to seeing her in action as I pass the mantle over to her. Aidan, if you want to put up that QR code, and I just want to say thank you to everybody.
Thank you.